Good evening everybody. I'm very, very happy to be here tonight with a person that, I now consider a dear friend, Kimberly Krueger. Thank you, Kimberly, for accepting my invitation for this interview. Just a few practical, technical pieces of information before we start. If you have any question for Kimberly during the interview, please send it to info@projectprosperity.com, and in the subject line just specify question for Kimberly. And the other thing, if you want to tweet about this interview, the hashtag is Prosperity on Air. So, Kimberly, you have an amazing story, and if I told this story, I wouldn't tell it as well as you can tell your own story. So, just say something about yourself, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your amazing story.
Thank you, and it is my pleasure to do this interview with you. Thank you for the invitation. I guess the best way to describe my story is that from the time I was very young, I dreamed of having a big, happy family, and found myself at a young age having that family and growing that family, and ended up having 11 children with my husband, my first husband, and what I didn't foresee coming was that chemical addiction was going to hijack that happy family. And I ended up with the big, but not so much with the happy, and found myself in, the only way I can describe it is a deep, dark pit. My husband and I had been digging it together, he with his addiction and me with my enabling. And I had to find a better way to live, because I knew that I had enough faith to know there was a better way, but I didn't know what it was. And so I began to find out how to climb out of that pit, and I discovered that when you love someone and they are making decisions for their life that are destructive to them, to you, to the relationship, to the family, that in that case love says no. Love doesn't say yes anymore. Love doesn't say yes to something that's bad for someone. Ultimately, I always wanted to love and be loved, but I had a very misconstrued definition of what love was until I found myself in this difficult situation and discovered that in my case, love would have to do some really hard things and say, I love you too much to help you destroy your life, and I love my family too much to be a part of destroying it anymore. And I began to make those decisions, and I also discovered that the only person I could really choose for was me. And as much as I tried to choose for him and wanted to choose for my children, I couldn't. I could only choose for me. And I accidentally found out that that is the definition of empowerment, and became an empowered woman accidentally. It really was accidentally, because I didn't have those tools or skills in me before all of that. I didn't know anything about any of that. I was very naive. But slowly over time, with faith and determination and some great support in my life, I went from that pit to climbing out to ultimately living my dream and fulfilling my purpose. Not many people knew that when I was a very young mom, I dreamed of someday being an author and a speaker and helping other people to live happier, more prosperous lives, especially emotionally and especially relationally. I want to see people prosper in those ways, and spiritually. And the irony is, when I was dreaming those dreams was when I was the least able to help myself, much less anyone else. But I can tell you that I have crossed over to the other side, and I'm now living that dream. I've authored a book, and I'm about to release a second, and I speak and I coach people personally one-on-one, and I'm doing the very thing I dreamt of doing. And to be honest with you, Paula, I don't think I'd be able to do this if I hadn't had to struggle through and climb out of that pit myself.
Yes. And when you are one of those people who really, you know, can teach things exactly because you went through so much, and therefore you can, you know, relate to people and understand their problems. And I think that only when you go through these experiences yourself, you can really help other people who are going through the same. And very briefly, you said, as you said, you are an author, a speaker, a coach. We
Yes.
actually met through a book because we co-authored a book together with other 33 amazing women. And this
Yes.
is the book, The Female Leader.
Yes.
Empowerment and conscience and passion. For those of you who are interested in the book, it's available on Amazon. And so when we launched the book, this is when we first met a few months ago.
Yes.
And Kimberly, you said you are a coach, you are a speaker, an author, and you are also an entrepreneur running a successful business. And
Yes.
you actually, as you said, when you were telling about your story, you actually reinvented yourself.
Yes.
What can you describe as the biggest challenge that you had to face?
Oh, that's so easy to answer. My biggest challenge was my own view or image of myself. When you struggle for a long time and you feel defeated for a long time, you begin to view yourself, you begin to take on your circumstances as if they're your identity. And for many years, I lived in that defeated identity. And so to envision myself as successful, even powerful and influential and helpful to other people, it was a stretch for me. I had to view myself in a way that I hadn't viewed myself before. I also had to face my fear of rejection and fear of failure because you know, when you put yourself out there as an entrepreneur and you reinvent yourself as a woman and you say, hello world, here I am and you need me, and the world says, no, we don't really need you, because some people are going to say that, you know. I had to figure out how I was going to deal with that and keep my confidence and continue to press on in business. And really, I look at my business as a mission because it's my purpose. And so I had to look at it like, well, I'm going to pursue my purpose and my passion knowing someone out there needs me. Not everybody, but someone.
Yes, yes. And you said a few very interesting things to begin with, that, you know, your biggest challenge were actually yourself. You mentioned, you know, your fear of rejection, your fear of failure. So you had a lot to face. And
yes.
What did you do? What helped you overcome this big challenge?
You know, it's interesting, and the simple answer is this. I learned to redefine failure. And by redefining failure, I was able to redefine rejection, because when you're in business and something doesn't work out, like you pursue a client and they say no, or you're pursuing a speaking engagement and they say no, you can really look at that as both failure and rejection. At least that's how I would look at it. And so by redefining those things, I was able to, instead of it being like an up, you know, a roller coaster ride where you're up when they say yes and you're down when they say no, I discovered that every successful person in history only got to that point with a series of failures and rejections. That in fact, no one ever in all of history had a straight path from their dream to success without many, many, many mistakes or failures or rejections along the way. And I realized that instead of success being this mountain off to my right that I have to climb, and failure's this pit to my left that's kind of sucking me in. And so every time I fail or I make a mistake, I'm being pulled closer to the pit and further away from the mountain of success. That's not at all what success looks like or the journey to get there. The reality is the mountain is right in front of you, and there is a brick road, and the bricks in the road are written with both failure and success, yes and no, acceptance and rejection. And in order to get to that mountain, you have to take that path knowing you're going to get both. And so I now look at every failure, which I don't associate that with anything negative anymore, as I just took another step closer to my mountain of success. I'm not further from it because the fact that I have a string of no's and a string of yeses in my path tells me I'm on my way.
Oh yeah, and failures, so-called failures, are good lessons.
That's
we
right.
Need to learn.
That's right.
Yes. You empower women with your programs and services. And what are the major obstacles, both internal and external, that a woman has to face when she wants to start, for example, a new business or a new career, and especially, you know, an older woman, a woman in her late 40s, early 50s, or late 50s too?
I would say the two most significant obstacles are confidence. When she's reinventing herself, it usually means she's doing something she hasn't done before. It might be a spin on something she's done before, but it's going to look or act differently, so it's new. So there's a little bit of that fear of the unknown, and am I up for the task? How will I do with it? I think confidence is a big thing. And then the second big thing is sometimes just a lack of information. A woman might say, I know what I want to do, but I'm not sure how to go about it. I don't know the steps or in what order to take them. You know, I just was talking to a woman the other day. This is actually very appropriate. It was yesterday, who is completely reinventing herself. She is in her late 40s, early 50s, and she was an architect for many, many years. And then she was a stay-at-home mom, and now she's like, I just want to do what I love, but I've been out of the game, and so she decided she's going to be an interior designer. And part of that journey was saying, what do I need in place? I did all these things as an architect, but I don't have a degree. How important is education? And ultimately, she decided the path she was comfortable with, but then had to be faced with that confidence-shaking thought of, I'm going to be the oldest woman in these classes. I'm going to be like the oldest newbie they've ever seen, you know, and that shook her a little bit, and she needed someone to tell her, this is going to be great, you're wise to do this, and you're not the only one doing it. There are so many other women out there doing it, and she needed to know that she's not the only one. She's not going to look like a freak or stand out in any way. And she's very excited about her path and ready to dig in because she had the right support and the right information.
Oh, that's great. I mean, when I hear these stories of women who really understand that it's never too late
That's right.
to start something new or to change, oh, it's so inspiring and encouraging. There are so many women who are stuck in situations, both, you know, in their personal life or in their professional life, where they're not happy.
That's
and
right.
They are afraid
Yes.
of, you know, of change, and especially they are afraid of not being able to do anything to change because they feel they are too old and therefore they're not ready to, you know, learn something new. But you can do it. You can do it.
I heard a statistic recently about college graduates, and so we're not talking about late 40s and 50s. We're talking about fresh out of school, you know, just got their degree in the major of their choosing, and the statistic said something like between college graduation and their 40th birthday, the average person will change careers 11 times. 11 times.
Wow.
I was astounded by that statistic, and what that tells me is that everyone, all walks of life, all ages and stages, are going through change. And change is always scary, but it's always comforting to know that we're not the only ones going through it. And we might need to reinvent ourselves one really big dramatic time, maybe not 11 times in 18 years, you know.
So we can do it at least once in our
That's
lifetime.
right. That's right. If they can do it 11 times, we can do it once.
Kimberly, now I would like to move to a topic that I know is quite dear to you, the topic of communication.
Yes.
And communication is very important in every area of our lives, in business, in our personal life. What are the ingredients of a healthy communication?
Well, healthy communication, obviously honesty is a big ingredient. Sometimes, I'm just going to throw this in because I think this is important, timing is a healthy ingredient, or a good ingredient of healthy communication. Sometimes it's not even just about honesty and delivery, it's about the timing. We have to be a little more savvy sometimes about when we discuss certain things with certain people. The surroundings may not be appropriate, or the mood of the other person maybe isn't a prime for this conversation. I think that, you know, if we understand that communication is such a powerful thing, whether positive or negative, and if we want our communication to be the most effective, we need to think about our delivery, our timing, you know, the other person's receptivity in that moment, or at all. Is this a really highly sensitive topic? Then we need to be really careful about how we go about saying it. We need to still be honest, but maybe not as bold or forthright, I guess, or blunt would be something to avoid on a really sensitive subject. And so, you know, communication it's an art, I believe. It's definitely a difficult thing to master, and it takes a lot of time, skills, and practice.
That's interesting. The timing element is something that sometimes we don't take into account, especially, you know, in difficult situations. You simply want to get it out of your chest.
Yes.
And probably it's not the right moment.
That's right.
Assertive communication is important, being assertive. But sometimes assertiveness is erroneously mistaken for aggressiveness.
It is.
Can you explain the difference?
I can, and I'm going to start off by reading you the definition of assertive communication, if you'll bear with me for a moment. It says, assertive communication is a form of communication in which needs or wishes are stated clearly with respect for oneself and the other person in the interaction. It is different from passive communication because in passive communication, needs or wishes go unstated. And it differs from aggressive communication because in aggressive communication, needs or wishes are stated in a hostile or demanding manner. Now, there's one word that I use to distinguish these three forms of communication. It boils down to one element, and that is respect. And let me demonstrate what I mean. Assertive communication is when I'm honest with you, even if you're not going to like what I have to hear, the content of my message you might not like, but my delivery will remain respectful of you, okay? Passive communication is when I have a legitimate thought or feeling that I should express, but I don't at all, which doesn't convey respect for me, right? And then aggressive communication is where I have a thought or feeling and I don't care how it makes you feel, and my delivery is actually hostile, and my body language is very aggressive, meaning I might be too close to your face, I might be invading your space, I might be using my hands too close to you. My voice might be raised. The look on my face might be angry. And so you can see that there's only one type of communication where both parties are being respected, and that is the assertive method. Is that easy to do always? No. No, it's not. People who view assertive communication as aggressive, I have found, in most cases, are people who are afraid of conflict. And so if you are honest with them, that scares them, and they've now labeled you as aggressive because you made them feel uncomfortable. Well, here's the reality. Assertive communication can make people feel uncomfortable, but not because of your delivery, but because it might be the truth, and the truth isn't always comforting, is it, Paula?
True. It's true. Sometimes we don't want to hear what the other person has to say.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people hide behind, you know, you're so aggressive because they're trying to, in a sense, manipulate you into not communicating in a forthright manner. And please don't assert yourself here because it's not welcome. Well, you know, a relationship isn't going to go very far if someone's voice isn't heard and if both parties aren't influenceable by each other.
True. That's true. Kimberly, why so many women are not assertive in their communication? Why are they afraid of being assertive?
Well, I can tell you, some women are not assertive because they are afraid, and that's one reason. And that may be because in their homes growing up, there was only aggressive communication, and conflict was a really negative thing. I believe conflict doesn't have to be negative. I think how you handle conflict can be negative or positive. But conflict itself can actually benefit a relationship. It can cause growth. Tension builds, just like tension in a muscle builds the strength of the muscle. But if our communication is not respectful, well, then nobody enjoys that, and we tend to shy away from that. So that's a really powerful reason that women shy away from assertive communication. They don't want to fight on their hands, and the other person may be an aggressive person. The other reason, and I think this is the bigger reason why women don't communicate assertively, and it's because assertive communication is not something you're born with. It's actually a skill that you have to learn. And the way that we learn it is more or less through modeling. We follow after someone else's example, or we are taught it and then we have to go practice it. And let's be honest, most of us did not grow up in a home where we had two assertive, respectful communicators for parents. Sometimes I've found women will tell me they had one assertive parent, one who wasn't, or neither of their parents were assertive. And so they had no one to model that to them. And I really, truly think that most of the problem is just women need to learn the skill, and then they would use it.
That's true. That's so true. There's also another thing I was thinking while you were speaking, Kimberly. I know many people who believe that if you are able to communicate in an assertive manner, you will get the outcome that you expect. But this is not the case often. And yes, and it's because we cannot be responsible for the way the other person responds to what we are saying. Is it correct?
Oh, I love that you brought that up. I remember when the light bulb went on in my head and I discovered the real reason why we communicate assertively. And you are absolutely right. It's not to guarantee an outcome. We cannot guarantee an outcome. We cannot guarantee the other person is going to see things our way. We only have control over us. But I remember struggling with this, and my therapist said to me, well, we communicate to be responsible communicators, and what other people do with that is their decision. And so I began to communicate with my loved ones just to be a responsible member of that relationship, not to coerce them or change their mind or to get them to do what I wanted them to do. And what a freeing thing that is, to say, well, I'm gonna, so to speak, keep my side of this relationship straight clean. I'm going to communicate assertively and openly. You may not communicate that way back to me. You may not appreciate that communication. You may not even try to work with me on whatever it is I'm communicating about, but I can feel good because I did the right thing in this relationship, because that's what it's really about, the relationship, right?
That's right. That's right. Before I go on with my questions for you, I just want to remind the people who are watching this interview that if you have questions for Kimberly, you can send them to info@projectprosperity.com and specify question for Kimberly as a subject. And if you want to tweet about tonight's interview, it's #ProsperityOnAir. We've been speaking about women, about starting afresh, reinventing yourself. Which would you say are the characteristics of a mature woman that are particularly helpful when she wants to start a new venture, a new career at an older age?
Characteristics of a mature woman. So what does she need, in a sense, in her tool belt in order to start that new career? I would say she needs fortitude. She needs to be a woman who can persevere. She needs to really know how to stabilize her own emotions, because it can be a bit of an emotional roller coaster. So she needs to know how to take care of herself emotionally. Also to be able, I guess what I'm after here is self-awareness. She needs to be aware enough about herself to know if she can handle what she's getting into, and if she's having a bad day, because she will, how is she going to handle that? What is she going to do when her bucket feels very empty because she's pouring out all these efforts to try to change her life, and she's going to feel dry some days, and she's going to feel like she doesn't have any more to pour? What is she going to do to fill that bucket and to refill and refresh herself to keep going on her journey? And I think the profoundly most important ingredient is this woman knows her why. I tell people willpower doesn't take you anywhere. You need why power. You need to know, why is this important to me? Why am I doing this? Why am I sacrificing or working extra hard or learning a new skill at my age? Why am I doing this? Because there are going to be days that you really question yourself and second guess yourself. And I tell my clients and audiences, write your why on a Post-it note and stick it on your bathroom mirror, because those bad days are coming and you need to remember why this is important to you. I also ask women, let's just close our eyes and fast forward to your dream being fulfilled. You've reinvented yourself, you're successful in this new career. How does it feel? What are you hearing other people say about you? What are you seeing when your eyes are closed? Do you see your family surround you, hugging you and praising you? Do you see audiences, celebrating you? Are you reading great reviews in the newspaper? What does success look like to you? And then write that down, and also keep that in front of your eyes, because that's part of your why also. You're working toward that payoff, and every woman's payoff is different. It really is, and it's important that each woman knows what it is.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, and the why part is so important, really, really important.
Yes.
And if you were to advise a woman in her 50s who, is trying to reinvent herself and start her own business, what would you suggest to her? if she's just beginning?
Well, I would suggest to her probably the same thing I would say to any woman of any age who is trying to overcome an obstacle or get somewhere where she hasn't yet been. And what I would recommend is my formula for breakthrough. I think that the ingredients to this formula are vital in helping women to overcome and to really truly succeed. And I'll share those ingredients with you today. And I think as the women are listening out there, think about how this applies to you today. How can you apply these steps and these ingredients to your journey as you think about reinventing yourself? The first ingredient is faith. A woman has to have faith if she's going to go out on a limb. She's got to believe there's something better. She's got to believe in herself. I mean, she's got to believe in her own gift. She's got to believe in her own ability. She's got to believe in her own talent. And I know for me, I had to believe that there was a God out there who could do the things that I can't do because I'm aware of my limitations as well. So faith is the foundational key, because without that belief, you're not going to go very far. There's too many things in life that will come along and shake your belief and try to get you to let go of it. So, and on that note, women who have a big dream, guard your dream. Don't tell everybody your dream. There are some real dream stealers out there. There are people who, for whatever reason, they want to rain on your parade and they don't want you to dream big. And so you tell them your dream and they just shoot you down. And they say, that'll never happen. That's ridiculous. Please be careful. I just caution you who you share your dream with. Tell your dream to another dreamer. Don't tell your dream to someone who is cynical and who is not living their dream and nowhere near living their dream. And so then the next ingredient after faith would be truth. And the way that truth comes into play is, for example, if a woman is reinventing herself and she says, I know what I want to be. I want to be an opera singer. That is my purpose. It's what I'm passionate about. I love it. There's nothing I love doing more. But she can't sing. She can't sing at all, okay? She needs to face the truth. In this case, the truth is your friend. If this is nowhere in the realm of your ability, let's be honest. Let's also be honest about timing and resources. And it's interesting because, faith believes the impossible, but sometimes we have to take that truth and say, okay, the truth is I believe that's coming, but it isn't here yet, right? Or I believe I can be great, but the truth is I won't be a great opera singer. And so face the truth about yourself and about your dream and your business. I had to face the truth about my fear of rejection. It was holding me back. And I really did. I was bothered in the first year of my practice by my own, I was limiting myself. And so I had to get honest and face that truth and say, I got to do something about this. I'm afraid of people saying no to me, and that's really hindering my coaching practice. The next ingredient is personal responsibility. Take 100% responsibility for your life, your future, your destiny, your dream. Don't expect other people to do the heavy lifting for you. No one else is going to. You're going to be disappointed if you wait for someone else to do the hard work. Take personal responsibility for your life. Instead of wishing, go do. Instead of wanting, make it happen. Personal responsibility says, I take ownership over all of my decisions. And the ones I'm not proud of, I forgive myself for, I learn from them, and I move on. And that's exactly what personal responsibility does. It says, I own it, but I'm not going to be beat down by it either. And the next ingredient is the proper tools. Now, when it comes to reinventing your career and having a business, running a new business, you may need some tools you don't have, and those might be literal tools, and those might just be figurative tools. You may need to take a class on social media marketing. You may need Paula to coach you on branding. You know, there are so many things to be learned, and if you are being honest and facing the truth, you may not have time or the energy to learn all those by yourself. So you may need to gather some tools, and with tools come really great resources and people. I've had some of the best people come into my life because of my business, because I needed some help with things, or I needed tools, or I needed guidance, and it's proven to be a real blessing, and I've gotten the tools that I need to continue to grow and expand. And the last ingredient is what I call solid support. Solid support is just that. You need people in your life who believe in you, people who will encourage you, people who can tell when you're overworking yourself, and they look at you and say, you look tired. What do you do? Are you burning the candle at both ends to make your business go? You need to take a break. You need to relax a little bit. There are people who will sacrifice some of their own resources or happiness or time even to promote you and your dream. That's the most solid support you can possibly get in life, and it's just as true in business as it is in family. We need that in our lives. So with all of those factors combined, the formula is F times T times PR times PT times S squared, and that equals your breakthrough. That equals you reinventing yourself. If you can put all those things in place, they all multiply the next, and they will put you on the fast track to reinventing yourself.
Wow, this is a really powerful formula. I hope that everybody has a pen and paper to write this down, and if they haven't, they can ask us, Kimberly, and
Yes.
we can send them the formula. I think it's very, very, very powerful and very important.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think that the question I'm about to ask now really fits in very well with this formula. Marketing and promoting yourself. This is one of the biggest challenges that many of my clients have to face. And I've been there myself too. And I believe that personal branding today is very important. Also as a way to, help you to know yourself better and to be more focused on what you do. What do you do for your personal brand, for your social media presence, and for promoting yourself in a very effective manner?
Well, I think what I do is I work on brand consistency. So I want people to recognize my name, my logo. So all of my social media looks the same in that way. And I try to identify everything with my tagline, which is raw, real, and relevant. And part of my branding consistency is remaining raw, real, and relevant. And there are times when people have said to me, people in my community have said, we want you to be more raw. We want to know more. And so they've come to expect that, and they're free to ask me that now. They want more details. They want to know. One woman said to me, I want to know what it was like when you were a single mom with 10 kids still at home. How the heck did you do that? And they want to know really, truly, how much did I struggle? How painful was it? And so that brings me to my next point, which is really opening up to your community, telling your story, and making some points of connection with your audience, because your story may not be anyone else's story. It isn't supposed to be. It's supposed to be unique to you. But there is a universal theme of human struggle and our ability to overcome that struggle, and that's what resonates with people. Yesterday I spoke to an elite basketball team at a very prestigious private school in my community, and when I was done with my talk, there were 9 boys there, high school students. I asked them, what was your biggest takeaway from my talk? What spoke to you the most? All 9 of those boys said something different. And that really struck me, that I told the same story to one group, and actually 2 of the boys had the same answer. So out of 9 boys, there were 8 different points that they said, wow, that really hit me. And the lesson I learned from that is, as I'm connecting with my community and reaching out to people, that I can tell the same story and I can hit 8 and 9 different people with that story in one room. And so you just never know what is going to touch a nerve and strike a nerve with people. What really hit them was that I was being very honest, very authentic, and very transparent. And I have found that people cannot resist that. They can't resist that. Some of my clients tell me, when we're in a coaching session, I feel like I'm hanging out with a girlfriend. Well, but they say a girlfriend who's like really smart and really helps me. But the idea is they feel that connection and that bond with me. That takes time to build, and so some people may not have the patience for that. But I would say through your social media and your email marketing, if you take time to connect and you give value to your community. Yes, we have to sell things to our community. That's how we make money. But don't only sell things to your community. Bring them value. Give them free tips. Share with them videos where you just want to say hi and tell them what's on your mind. They feel like you're a friend who's called to just fill them in on some things. It's how you build relationship. It always comes back to relationships, doesn't it?
I agree. I totally agree with you. It's all about relationships. And, you know, people more and more want this human relationship with you and with the company. And also big brands have started to become more human because they understood that their customers want to relate to something that sounds and looks human to them.
Yes.
So yeah, this is really very, very important.
Yeah.
And you mentioned success. We've spoken already about success. Yes. What does success mean to you, Kimberly?
That is such a great question. Success for me is really about making a significant impact. And when I say significant impact, that could mean so many things to other people. To me, I just want to have a far-reaching, really an international impact with my message. I feel that drive on the inside of me. It's like I won't be satisfied until I have had an impact on women from, I don't know how many countries, maybe 30, maybe 90. I just know it's an international impact, and that's one part of success for me. But really, truly, the simplest answer is, if my children, of which I now have 12, including my stepson, if all 12 of my children grow up to live their purpose and pursue their passion and to do anything to emulate the good that I've done in my life, what more could I ask for? I mean, what greater success is there that the people who live intimately with you day to day look up to you to the level that they aspire to be like you? That to me is the ultimate success.
I think that one day I will interview you about the secrets for raising 12 children. Yes.
That sounds great.
So amazing. When I first met you and I discovered that you had 11, 12 children, I was really, really amazed. You look so young. How can that be possible? And she survived.
I survived, yes. I'm living proof that it can be done. But yes, I did start very young, and my oldest son is 26 now. My youngest daughter is 8, and you know, all kinds of ages in between. I'm a grandmother. My second oldest daughter married last year, and they had their first baby in the spring, and I am just the happiest grandma you'll ever ever meet in your life. I just love being a grandmother and love my grandson. I didn't think it was possible to love a child more than your own, but boy, I tell you, I saw a post the other day. It said that children are the rainbow, but grandchildren are the pot of gold at the end. That is totally true.
No, and I think you are the youngest grandmother that I've ever met.
Yeah, I know I have an unusual life, but I don't mind that because people listen to me because they're just curious, and if I can get them curious enough to listen for a few minutes, then they'll listen to my message, and to me, then it's all worth it.
Yeah. And Kimberly, prosperity. What does prosperity mean to you? Prosperity may mean different things to different people.
Yes. Well, when I hear the word prosperity, I think of a verse in the New Testament that says, that my prayer for you is that you may prosper as your soul prospers. And what that means to me is that if you have a prosperous soul, that you can't help for that to spill over into all the other areas of your life. In other words, I could be very financially prosperous, but if my heart was a tangled up mess and I was in the midst of all kinds of difficult relationships, or I struggled with really low self-esteem and had no confidence, that's not a prosperous life. Prosperity must start here. And then I believe if you can attain internal prosperity, peace and joy in your heart and soul, and you have that life coming out of your heart, it just spills over then to your relationships, your business, your finances, and every other area, your health. We're just such intricate human beings, and everything's connected, and really everything just spills out of our hearts, truly. And so to me, prosperity, it begins right here.
While I was listening to you, I heard the words of a dear friend of mine who always says, as within, so without.
Yes.
So, yeah, you attract the things that you feel inside, and you project outside what you have inside.
That's right.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Having so many children, I think that, finding balance in your life has not always been easy. And I believe that, to feel fulfilled, happy about your life, and to live happily your life, it's also about finding a balance between your physical, mental, and spiritual life. Yes. What do you do to find or to keep this balance, Kimberly?
Yes, that's a great question. For many years when my children were young, I believed that, taking care of myself was selfish and that I needed to put my husband and children first. And I found out the hard way that I was wrong. I reached a level of burnout, emotionally, physically. Thankfully, my health didn't suffer like many women who tell me that they found that out the hard way as well. But I was emotionally pretty sick. I wasn't healthy. And, a really solid tree needs healthy roots. And I thought of this morning. I was thinking about this because so many women I coach struggle with self-care. And I thought to myself, what would happen to our vehicles if we never changed the oil? What would happen to all these machines that we rely on if they were never maintained, if they were never repaired? We wouldn't be able to use them. Well, our lives and our bodies and our emotions are no different. We are only given 24 hours in a day. We need to choose how to use those hours. We are given a certain amount of physical and emotional energy in a 24-hour period, and it runs out. That's why we have to go to bed at night and get some more sleep. And so how we spend these things really determines how effective we are. And going back to my earlier metaphor of the bucket, if we are going to pour out and pour out and pour out, who's pouring into us? Well, last time I checked, there's not a line at my door of people waiting to pour into me. That's actually my responsibility. It's my responsibility to refill my tank. And Stephen Covey in his book, First Things First, talks about recreation, but he calls it what it really is, recreation. We need to recreate that energy source on the inside of us. For me, it's getting enough sleep. I run. Running is very, very cathartic for my mind, and I like to spend time alone. I am a spiritual person. I spend time alone. I read my Bible or I journal. Sometimes what really fills my bucket is a mindless reality TV show. Because I can just turn off my brain from all the, the 12 children and the business and all the things that I think about all day long, and I can just give my brain a rest. And so, but I've become very aware of what things fill my bucket and when I need it filled. The other night was a great example. I came home and I just said, I have got to do something that doesn't have anything to do with any of my responsibilities, or I'm just going to crash and burn. And so I told the kids, my husband asked me to go for a ride with him, so I told the kids, we're getting on our Harleys and we're going for a bike ride, and we'll be back in a little bit. And so just getting out on my bike and feeling that freedom and the cool air, and I'm just out there riding. I do what I need to do to fill my bucket in small little pieces throughout my day, throughout my week. It's not a once-a-week thing, is it?
No, you're right. You're right. And this is, something else that, especially myself, but I think that many other women can relate. You have to write on a big note and hang it everywhere around the house to remind you to take, some time for yourself. Even if it's just 5 minutes every now and then, but please do it. Because as you said, you need to recreate yourself, to recharge your batteries, as we say.
Yes. A client just emailed me today and she said, I no longer feel guilty about taking care of myself because I've discovered that if I don't take care of myself, I can't be the things that I want to be for the ones I love.
That's so true.
If the people we love, our clients, or whomever it is in our life, are really our motivation to give, then invest in you so that you have something to give and you're not giving out of emptiness, because that's not building anybody up, least of all you.
That's true. That's true. Kimberly, I know that you have several projects in progress, and one in particular I would like you to talk about. And as you talk about it, I will share my screen with a nice picture of your project.
Okay, wonderful. All right.
So this is a new book coming out, isn't it?
Yes, yes. We're shooting for the end of October is really the goal. It's my book called Free, and the subtitle is 7 Days, 8 Graves, and 1 Heart Healed by Love. And this is really the story I shared earlier in our interview, Paula, about my life story. And the book it's not your typical story of someone's life. It's told in a unique way. And just to give you a little background, there was a 1-week period in my life back in 2010 where I felt compelled to go and revisit the most painful places in my life, and there were 8 of them, and that's why the subtitle says 8 Graves. It was a 7-day period where I visited 8 places where things in my life, either people or circumstances or something, died, either literally or figuratively in my life. And I went and revisited those places with a different goal and a different perspective, and it's really about a healing journey that God kind of called me onto, and I feel like He called me out to do this crazy thing, and I said yes, and I got crazy results from it. The healing that I went through during that week was just phenomenal and life-changing. And part of it was because I was willing to go back and be open to the things in each of those places that were not yet healed. And so it's really a story of hope and a story of faith. And I encourage women to read this book, men too. It really could speak to anyone, but ultimately I want to see people read that book, close the cover, put it down, and say, boy, if she could do that, I can do.
I will share the cover again.
Okay.
And while I do that, when is the book coming out, Kimberly?
Well, I wish I had an exact date, but what we're shooting for is the end of October. And this book can be ordered through my website. I am currently taking pre-orders, so it is available today, and the web address is www.kjkenterprises.com. Those are my initials, kjkenterprises.com.
Yeah, at the end of this interview, I will put up a page on my website. Okay. Where you will be able to find all the contact details if you want to get in touch with Kimberly, order her book, and know more about her, of course. I just want to see if, in the meantime, some questions for you, Kimberly, have arrived. Yes, yes. One of the questions is from Flaminia. I think she is Italian, and she says that, you know, she's really afraid of being rejected, and this is something that she's really struggling with, and she doesn't know where to start from in order to, you know, face this to begin with and overcome it.
Yes. Well, I can tell you from personal experience that rejection can be devastating if you do not know where your worth comes from. Because what we tend to do is think, if this person deems me as unworthy, then I must be unworthy. And that actually couldn't be further from the truth. This saying probably seems like an oversimplification, but I love it. It goes like this: you can be the ripest, juiciest peach, and there's still somebody who doesn't like peaches.
Yeah.
Someone else's rejection of you does not determine your worth and value as a human being. And for me, I had to find out where I could get my worth and value that wasn't hinged on other people's opinions. And the truth is, if our value is hinging on other people's opinions, 99 people could say that we're worthy, and one person could say we're not, and that one person with the negative vote can make us feel terrible about ourselves, and that 99 positive vote won't even make us feel better because we're fixated on why this one person says we're not worthy, right? And so I no longer get my worth and value from human approval or human accolades. My worth and value comes from who I am to God and how He sees me. And He sees me the same whether I fail or fall or whether I succeed and rise. He sees me the same whether if I never did another good thing with my life, He would still love me and deem me as valuable. And so that's what I tell myself, that my value doesn't come from this world or people in it. And that has been a solid foundation for me, because there are, the haters are going to hate, right?
Yeah, and you cannot be liked by everybody, and you cannot please everybody.
That is right. That's right.
That's true. That's true. So let's start from ourselves. Let's please ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
It really is belief. You're right. It's a faith thing. You just have to believe that
Yeah.
you are worthy and valuable, and that the right people, the people that are meant to see that, are going to see that. And if there's people in your life who won't see that because they refuse to, or they view you from a different perception, let them own that. You know, there's people out there who are going to value you and treat you like the precious woman that you are. Don't waste your time on anyone who doesn't.
Yeah. True. True. Oh, I have another question from Kathy, and she says, you said it's very important to take space and time for yourself. I wish I had days longer and 48 hours a
Yes.
day to be able to do that. How can you find the time every day to, take a special space for yourself?
Yes, great question. Some days it's little brief, I guess, little mini times for myself. Sometimes maybe I finished an appointment and I have a few minutes, so I just sit in my car in the peace and quiet and I take a deep breath. It's not about taking hours and hours every day. Sometimes I just will take 5 minutes to get quiet and pray. Um, I have found that I'm actually better off if I do those little things throughout a day than versus taking a big chunk of time and then trying to make that big chunk of time for me last several days. Sometimes you just have to cry. I mean, you have to know yourself. There's times where I feel pent-up emotion, and I know if I just cry for a couple minutes, I'm going to feel better. To me, that's taking me time. It's saying, I know what I need right now, and I'm going to meet the need. Sometimes when I'm sitting at my desk and I do have these projects going, and I love what I do, and I have these huge aspirations, but I'll look around at my piles or my to-do list and I'll feel overwhelmed. I will purposely stand up, leave the area. I'll go maybe in my kitchen and make a cup of tea and just take a deep breath, take my mind and my eyes off of what is causing me the stress just for a few minutes. And I'll come back in the room when I feel that peace return and I feel more calm. And those little things go a long, long way. Would you agree, Paula?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Kimberly, I have another question from Miriam, and she says, work-life balance is very important.
Yes.
How can you manage to find this balance between such a demanding family, I assume, having so many kids, so many children,
Yes.
and running your business?
Yes. This is for me and always will be a work in progress. I used to be a stay-at-home mom, and so my whole focus was my home and family. And when I became a single mom, I became a single working mom, and it was quite the culture shock for me and for my kids. As of today, I have 5 kids living at home full-time. I'm remarried. I have an incredibly supportive husband who works very, very hard, and we really do share the burden at home. I don't feel like it's all on me. We also really teach our kids responsibility, so they all do a lot to take care of their own things. Before I was even a working mom, I taught my kids to take responsibility for their own things. And my kindergartners were packing up their own backpacks and not forgetting their snow boots in the winter because I was teaching them early on to do their own remembering and not to rely on mine, which I had to do just strictly because of the number of kids I had. If everybody relied on my memory, boy, we'd all be sunk. So, with teaching responsibility to your kids and a real partnership with my husband, and then I try to draw some boundaries around my work. I've more recently made Sundays a non-work day. Like, I'm not sitting at my computer on Sundays. It's family day. And you know, I ask the kids to, when I am working, to, you know, let me work without interruption after school, but then when I'm done, I try to engage with them. And like I said, it's a work in progress. And I'll tell you what makes it the most difficult. My kids are my passion, my family's my passion, and my business is my passion. So it's like these two competing passions. But here's the difference. I know my priorities. My business is my passion, but my children and my husband come before that in my heart. Sometimes I forget that, and I follow my passions, and I bounce around a little bit. But when I sit down and I look at my top 10 priorities list, I know what comes first. And I ask myself, am I living true to that? And if I'm living true to that, then I'm good.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, and having these priorities very clear in our
Yes.
lives, it's so important. It's, you know, like it's like, you know, keeping your attention focused on your goal, and it's
Yes.
the same when you keep it focused on your priorities.
Yes.
If you are focused on your priorities and on your very important goals in life, you don't make mistakes. I mean, yes, you do, but you know, these mistakes are not so big, and you keep going and you continue going on and making progress, and you feel happy and fulfilled.
Yes. And
That's
I'm amazed at how few women know what their priorities are. In one of my workshops, we go through that exercise, and women are like, I haven't even thought about that. I say, fill in your top 10, and they're like, wow, like what really is a priority? And I say, just what is important to you in life? You know, it's not about what are all your roles and responsibilities. We got a ton of roles and responsibilities, but a lot of those are self-inflicted, and they're not really even priorities, right? A priority is what matters to me, what is important to me, that it is present in my daily or weekly life. And you know, it's very important to revisit that on a regular occasion, and then pull out your calendar and say, does my calendar reflect my priorities? You know, am I making choices that are consistent with what matters to me the most? And I'm also amazed at how many women forget to put their health as a priority. It's not even in their mind. You know, I'll say, what about your health? Oh, yeah, I guess I should care about that. I think you should. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, talking about the me time,
Yes.
I would suggest that you really include time slots in your schedule that you call me time, whatever this me time mean. You know, you may exercise or meditate, or, you know, as you said, maybe get up from your desk and, you know, take a cup of tea and just have 5 minutes on your own. And whatever it means to you, put it down in your schedule.
That's a great
keep
idea.
to that schedule. Yes, yes. Okay, well, we've been together for more than 1 hour. And I must say, I learned so much from you today, Kimberly.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, and I really enjoyed this conversation rather than interview. This was a really nice conversation with you, and I really enjoyed it very much.
As did I.
Yes, and I'm sure that, you know, all our viewers enjoyed it as well.
I hope so.
And
Thank you for joining us, viewers.
yeah, and if you want to have Kimberly contact details so that you can, you know more about her, contact her, buy her book, just go to this page, www.projectprosperity.com/thank you, and you will find Kimberly Kimberly's details, contact details, and a special bonus from me to thank you for being with us. Kimberly, thank you again, and I hope that you will accept another invitation from me, and I will interview you. Maybe on the secret of raising 11 children.
I would love to. I would love to. Maybe I'll discover the secret if we do that interview.
Yeah. Kimberly, thank you so much.
Thank you, Paula. It's been lovely. I so appreciate this, and I look forward to doing it again.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And thank you for being with us. And good night to the people from Europe who listen to us. And have a nice rest of the day to you on the other side of the ocean.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.